This tutorial explains how to use AlcoDens LQ to calculate the blending ratio for a liqueur containing alcohol, sugar, and water. You can download the free trial version of AlcoDens LQ from Catmar software using the link in the description below. The easiest way to understand the calculation process is by following an example. Let us imagine that we want to make 100 US gallons of liqueur with an alcohol concentration of 65 proof and a sugar concentration of 250 grams per liter, both measured at 60 degrees Fahrenheit. To keep this example simple, we will be using only 4 ingredients. These are a flavoring that contains some alcohol and sugar, and which must be added so that it makes up 1% of the final product by mass. We also have syrup available at 60 brix, and we have spirit which contains 95% ABV at 20 degrees Celsius. Finally, we also have water available in case it is needed to get the final dilution correct. This is the main window in AlcoDens LQ. The first 6 icons in the top row perform calculations on spirits containing alcohol and water only. The icons in the bottom row are for liqueurs that also contain sugar. To open the liqueur blending calculator, click on the last icon in the bottom row. At first sight, the liqueur blending calculator probably looks a bit overwhelming, but you will soon see that the data entry procedure is basically the same for each panel. With a bit of practice, you will find that this calculator is simple and logical to use. You should start with the options panel in the top right corner. AlcoDens LQ can use either the American TTB alcohol tables or the OIML tables. The button in the corner can be clicked to choose either TTB or OIML, and the button will display the current choice. Here we will use the TTB option. The blending calculator can work with either a fixed quantity of base liqueur and calculate what must be added to get to the correct alcohol and sugar concentrations, or it can calculate the quantity of each of the ingredients required to make a target quantity of product. In this example, we want to make 100 gallons of product, so in the target quantity box, we select the product option. When you select the product option, the last selection in this panel defaults to setting the product target for alcohol and sugar, and it cannot be changed. This means that you must specify both the alcohol and sugar concentrations you want in the product. Now we can work through the panels from left to right. The current example does not use any base liqueur, so we can click on the on-off button at the top of the panel to turn it off. This illustrates a general principle in the AlcoDens LQ blending calculator, in that the prompts for any data that is not required will be hidden to keep things as clear and obvious as possible. In the water panel, all that we have to specify is whether we will measure the quantity of water by mass or by volume. In general, it is easier and more accurate to measure by mass, and that is what we will be doing here. The example recipe includes flavorings, so the on-off button in the flavoring panel must be turned on. The upper part of the panel is where you choose how you will enter the details of the flavoring, and the lower part is where you actually enter the details. The top box allows you to choose whether you want to enter the alcohol strength as mass percent, volume percent, or proof. In this example, the alcohol strength of the flavoring is known in volume percent, so you must also enter the temperature at which the ABV is measured. If you click on mass percent for the alcohol strength, you will see that the prompt for the temperature disappears. Similarly, the sugar loading box allows you to choose whether the loading is known in mass per volume or mass per mass terms. Because the loading is known here in mass per volume terms, you must enter the temperature as well. Now that the selections have been made for how the information will be given, you can enter the actual alcohol strength, sugar loading, and dosage rate in the lower part of the panel. Note that the flavoring is always added in mass percent terms, so there was no option at the top to select between mass and volume for the dosage rate. You will see that the selections for the syrup are very similar to the flavoring panel, except that here you can choose between specifying the quantity in mass or volume terms, and there is no alcohol involved. If you select volume for specifying the quantity, you will also be asked to enter the temperature of the syrup, but if you select mass, then the prompt for the temperature is hidden. Another difference is the box asking whether there is a limited quantity of syrup available. If you indicate that there is a limited quantity available, then you will also be asked to enter the available quantity. If there is not enough syrup to provide all the sugar needed in the product, then AlcoDens LQ will assume that the difference will be made up with granular sugar. By now you will see the pattern emerging in the data entry procedure. At the top of the spirit panel, you choose whether the quantity of spirit will be given in mass or volume terms, just as it was for the water and for the syrup. The strength of the spirit can be given in mass percent, volume percent, or proof, just as it was for the flavoring. At the bottom of the panel, you enter the actual value for the strength of the spirit. In all the panels up to this point, we have been giving the details for the ingredients we have available, but now we need to specify the details for the product we are targeting to make. But the way you enter the data is just the same as for all the other panels. Note that even though all the ingredient quantities will be measured by mass, it is possible to specify that the target quantity of product should be given as a volume. Because we are specifying the quantity of product in volumetric terms, we must give the temperature at which that volume will be measured. This is the temperature at the bottom of the panel, just above the target alcohol strength. In this example, the temperature at which the sugar loading of the product is measured and the temperature at which the product volume is measured are the same. Usually they will be the same, but they do not have to be. After the product panel has been completed, you will see that the calculated source quantities for all the ingredients still show as zeros and are colored red, indicating an error condition. At all stages of the calculation, the status line at the very bottom of the calculator indicates if any error condition exists. Even though we entered all the details in the product panel, the calculation status is indicating that the product target volume has not been specified. The target quantity for the product must be entered in the product quantities panel. Note that in this panel, both the mass and volume of the product are given, but because the quantity of product was specified as volume in the product panel, you can only enter a value into the volume field here, and the mass of product will automatically be calculated if no error condition exists. As soon as the AlcoDens LQ calculator has all the information that it needs, it will automatically calculate and display the quantities of the source ingredients required. All the quantities required have been calculated in mass terms as specified. Note that there was sufficient sugar in the syrup and no dry sugar is required. AlcoDens LQ will always prioritize the use of syrup over dry sugar, but if you want to limit the amount of syrup that is used, you can set the available quantity in the syrup panel. This allows you to force the use of some dry sugar. The product quantities panel also displays the quantity of alcohol in the product liqueur. It isn't surprising that 100 gallons of liqueur at 65 proof contains exactly 65 proof gallons. If you have any questions on the use of AlcoDens LQ, or if you need help in setting up your own calculations, please write to us at support@catmarsoftware.com.